Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Daniel here from DM Network Solutions. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the new Wix Salesforce Integration Package, and we're going to give a couple examples here and see where we can take this. So, follow me along in this video. If you're first time here, take a look at my channel. We have a lot of different varieties, and we'll be focusing on Wix development. And without further ado, we'll get into it. So here we are in our Wix instance here, and we're going to take a look at our page. So here is our page. So for starters, if you're new to Wix and you want to give this a try, first thing you got to do is go to the depth mode here and turn on depth mode. This will allow you to be able to create databases and to get into the code. All right, once you do that, um, we're going to go here to our code files. And as you can see in packages, to install a new package, you can click here, install Velo package. And as you can see, the Velo team has released a few updates. Um, and we have Google Sheets integration, Salesforce integration, Twitter integration. We have some data helpers, SQL, and we have a quite other few updates for the Wix store bundles. So if you want to get a quick a look into that, you can definitely take a look at the README section. It's about 1 page long, and this gives us our the ability. So it says here, Salesforce Integration Package provides you the ability to easily monitor and manage data records in your Salesforce account from a Wix site. You can perform the following actions with this package. Query data records in Salesforce, retrieve data records, create new data records, update data records, and delete data records. So it gives us an example here. So basically, it's a 1 page document that they're saving it to an account in that example. In our case, I wanted to take it a little bit further and see what kind of things I'm able to create with this integration. So if we take a quick look here, we're going to take a look at one of our examples. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the preview here so we can launch our preview page. As you can see, I created a query here, so you can query a phone number. So if you query a phone number, it could return information. Okay, so here this is a single text area, and it's returning me. Well, it's pulling this variable here, and then it can give us a piece of data. In this case, it's just pulling a whole object. Okay, so as you can see, here is our object, and you can see it's an array, and it has a first name, last name, and the email. Okay, so we'll take a look at that in a little bit. And then if we wanted to create a new, if we want to create a new record, in this example, we have, so this is going to create a new contact. Okay, so we'll go ahead and call this one YouTube account. Let's call it something else. Right? YouTube creator. Then we got our phone number, 24. And we got our YouTube at creator.com. And right now we're just entering information here. Okay. So we have our information and we're going to go ahead and hit register. So actually this form, um, I have it tied in both ways. I have it tied into Wix. So as you can see here is the Wix um, complete message here. I submitted it. And then we have also our Salesforce um, record added message. Okay. So this created a record and it sent it to our Salesforce instance. Okay. So if I wanted to pull up that number, it was 1234, right? That phone number. And as you can see, if we take a look once again here, we have our record that we just created. Okay. YouTube creator. Okay. So it's working with our Salesforce integration. So this integration, a couple weeks ago, the first day, I was able to make the connection within a couple hours. So, so we can, if we can go back here, we can take a look and see what this looks like. Okay. So I'm gonna put my screen here, and we can take a look. Okay. So, so this Velo package. Okay, so here's the back end of that code. So basically, here are all the commands. So, this is using the JS Force MPN package, and they're using the Wix secrets. So this is where you're gonna put in your authentication to log into Salesforce. Okay, so that's where that key and your login information goes. Okay, and it's gonna log into Salesforce, right? And then it establishes a new connection. So every time you call it, it logs in and make sure it's authenticated. And as you can see, here's our authentication. So it's gonna pull from that information. So it keeps it all secured in Wix secrets. Okay. The next thing we have is our functions. So you got the query and retrieve and create, update, and delete functions. Okay. So this is how it's going to perform those commands. All right. So those are the main Salesforce functions. And then the other part of this is the wrapper. So uh, JSW, a web module. Okay. So these web modules, we're going to be importing those functions from the backend in that package, right? And then we have our create record function. So it's gonna create a record, right? So basically, this is the main function that's gonna pull what we send it. So for example, when we create the record, we are capturing all these fields, and then when we hit submit, that unclick is gonna launch a function that's gonna send us the information we need to save it. Okay. So in this particular example, I took the example that was provided, and they have a couple functions here to validate the name and make sure that it's a phone number that we're entering. Because in Salesforce, um, when you create an account, um, you need a name, and that's it, right? So here we're creating a contact record. So on a contact record, it needs at least a last name and it creates uh, a link to an account. And actually, our instance is MPSP. So user accounts create households. Okay. So when you create a contact, it creates a household with the last name. So we'll take a look at that in a moment, but just going back here to the code, um, let me make this a little bit bigger here. So as you can see, we have our, so it's going to call these other functions to validate the phone number and the name. And then it has an await. So it's getting that contact record information, and it gives us either a success message, or it gives us a error. Okay, and then we're gonna catch that error, and we also catch any other validation errors. Okay, so this is to create the record. So to create the record is pretty straightforward. Now we're also making a small query here, and we're selecting the context name. So we're pulling the name, last name, email, where that phone number matches, okay? And we're just pulling the first record that it finds. All right, so I'm gonna show you a different query and another page I've been working on. It's a little bit more interactive. And basically here is the other validation with our regular expression. It just validates that that's a name. This was mainly for the account example that they had. So I just left that in there so it can validate the names also. All right. And then when we go to our code, so basically we are loading these on-click events. And here's the main query function. It's a synchronous function. So we'll take a look at the query one in our next example. But here is where it creates the record. So we are taking the values of the form. So we're capturing that value and putting it in these constant variables. Well, these are constant. And then if there's a phone number, I mean, if there's a first name and a phone number, then it's going to go ahead and send those to our backend Salesforce wrapper. Okay. So here is where it's going to create with the API names in Salesforce. And when you're working with custom fields, the same API names apply. Okay, so make sure that you get the exact names, otherwise it'll give us error. And then here are the catching the error part. Okay. So this one was just me playing around and just getting to know the system. And this next page here, I wanted to work a little bit more on what it is queries. So this one is gonna look up a name and a phone number. Okay, so we put up a name and a phone number, and it's gonna create the query, and then it's gonna pull us the name, the user ID, the email, and the phone number. Okay, so let's take a quick look at this. So if we put right, what was it, the one we created? It's called YouTube, right? And then we got 407, 4, right? So if it finds a record, so it's telling us it found one record, and then here's the array that it found, or the object, okay? And then it has all that information, okay? So we take that information, we put first and last name here, we have the user ID, so this is the actual ID in Salesforce. So this is if you ever want to pull retrieve with that function, then you can retrieve it by calling on this ID in Salesforce, and it should retrieve that record. And then we also have the email and the phone number. And then here I created also a button that will link into a Salesforce account. So if we log into our Salesforce, then it should pull us straight into that contact. Okay, so there it is. So there's our contact we just created, and it has the rest of the fields and information. Okay, so let's take a look and see how we did that. So eventually, I would like to have a repeater that will show me all the if there's more than one record. Okay, because sometimes people have more than one record in our system, and maybe this is a good way to consolidate them or to put them all so we can pick the right record if we're looking up people manually this way. I can think of other cases that we can automate some of these processes, but it's a good start. It's a good start. So here we go in our import. So we are basically creating a query. So we're just importing. So this one's mapped to a different wrapper, okay? So if we go here, we can pull up our query wrapper. Let's get rid of that one. And basically it's a query to our Salesforce integration backend. And then we call this one get event totals. Okay. So actually, I like to just change this to make it more, okay, get contact query. So we'll call it that. Query. All right. So basically, you just have to update that name in all the places it's called. Okay. And then here's the other place. All right. So that should be it. So, um, so we're registering our button click and the other to get rid of the message button here. In this one, I created some variables outside of our main function. Um, so these variables, we're gonna be saving information to these so we can use them uh, in our to display in our form. Okay. So this is the query records handler. Okay. So this has to do with the messages and the loading screen. So we're taking the value of our name and phone number. Okay, let's put this in order. Okay, name and phone number. So the order, I'm not sure if it matters, but we'll just put it how it's on the form. So we're querying the name and phone number, and that response, we're gonna save that response to a new variable here called record. Okay, and then that way we can call the record here with those attributes. Okay, and then we can just put that to a variable again. Here's a console log so we can see what's going on. And for this message, I'm just putting the name. Okay. And then on this show record, okay, so here's another variable here called show record. And it's calling on all those. Okay, actually, that's a function. Okay, so our function show records, and we're sending these attributes to it. So this is what this screen here makes it appear. And here we got a button that's missing a letter. Okay, so we have some text fields that we are replacing the text on them with, this is how we do a first and last name. And then we have a user ID. And then here is how we do this link here, okay? So actually what I'm gonna do is I'm also gonna make that this also a text. So I wonder how we can link text and then link it to. Oh, okay, you know what? Check this. Can you do both? Can you just link also? Hmm. I wonder how you can also link the text. Or, okay, check this out. So I'm gonna copy that. Gonna put that one back to the other variable, right? Okay, and then below that one, we'll just reference that one again, right? As a link. And we'll do link. So is that how you do it? Maybe, perhaps, sure. All right, so it's gonna be replacing the thing, and then it becomes a link. Also, can it? Oh wait, it's an error. Does not have assist and text. Oh no. So link is for a button. Let's see what kind of properties this thing has then. So that's the cool thing about this. There's always something to learn. So maybe we will have to link it a different way. So like I would like to make this a dynamic link, the username one. So if you know how to do that, let us know on the comments below. Because here, see, you can kind of link it to something, but this is not really dynamic. That's why you got to use the code. Um, URL. No, that's nothing. So it doesn't exist for that. So the button is fine, but you know what? We'll just comment this and we'll figure this out sometime. All right, but that's basically how we have our main code here for this query. So if we look it up again, look up this other one. Cannot read. Okay, so this happens when for some reason it can't read. So this query requires both things. Now, when you create queries, you can uh, definitely be really creative with your queries, and you can make it do a lot of different things. So here we have a and. If we put or, put a or, we do that. All right, let's see. Team trees. Somewhere in there, there was a Daniel. I don't know why. Why is this thing picked that one up? No idea. Let's see Maria. Try Maria. Plenty of Marias in here. What the what? Okay, so yeah, this is really trolling me right now because there's no way that's right. So we have broken this. So it found a whole bunch of them. It's really just so that's why it's important to have accurate search objectives. Let's see, it says name and phone number. Okay. And we have phone and name. Okay, let's put this in order. Put name. and phone. Right, so there's our original one. Okay, so that one's still working. Great. All right, so one more thing we want to see here is um I'm also planning on creating some type of backend page. that we can pull information from. Okay. So here on Wix, it allows us to create backup, I mean, dashboard pages in our backend when we first log into the Wix instance. And here, basically, we are writing to a custom object. Okay. So here we have log event total. So we'll give it a quick try here. So in this log event total, we got our event type, who's the host. You pick a date, put a location, how many families you serve, how many were children, how many volunteers you had, the total amount of people, and how many pounds of food did they get in total. Okay, so that's a basic form. But the cool thing about this one was, if you look here, we have a name. So this is it's taking the name of the event and the date, and it's putting the date in a format that puts it in order. Okay, so year, month, day, and that's the format we use for our dates. Okay? And if we go back into our Salesforce, hey, maybe we can put a button here, a link that links it into that event here. So that'll at least take us straight into it. But if we go back into our Dream Center app, we have event total object here. And if we look at our most recent events, okay, here's the one we just created. Um, actually, this is not it. Hold on. So if we do it by, if we sort this, let's see, let's sort. Okay, so here's the one we just created. Okay, so see, it's mapping almost all of the fields. The only field I'm still having trouble is a lookup field. So I'm not sure if it needs the name and the ID. So we'll have to figure out if we want to like dynamically query and search for one of these accounts from that form live, or if we just, since we only have a few organizations that we work with, we can just put those in that drop down menu, some way that it'll push the information we need, or we can like make a query, instant query. Okay, but in this case, we just need to pick our organization and save it. Right. So this form, basically the same way. I did had to look up how to create the name for the date. So the date here is our date format. So it's picking the date, and then it takes that event date and it slices it up, and it takes away any dashes and slashes and just puts no space between them. Okay. So this one's creating a record, and then we are linking to this new Salesforce wrapper dashboard. Okay. So here is my attempt of creating that search query for the name of the account. And here's our all of our fields. And see, we are writing the name with this variable that has the name and the date. And then we also put the date in those fields. I'm only missing like a note, so I can add a note field. I'm thinking of using for the location, perhaps using the Wix Google address interactive thing. And then the other thing is we also have a diaper. So I want to make a condition that if they pick diaper assistance, then it asks for amount of diapers. Because that's one of the fields we also have here. Okay. And it basically saves it. This one is not tied into a database, but on our original form here, I do have that one tied into a database. So it is actually all these fields are also um, connected to the data. So these fields are going to be saved in the service record data set. So I have a local copy and I have a copy in Salesforce. Okay. Now, a good thing could be also maybe in the after. So if we go to our data set here, we can we might be able to pull once it creates that ID, we can perhaps interchange IDs, right? So maybe we can send an ID to Salesforce of the Wix ID, and we can take that ID from Salesforce and save it to the service record also. So that way they're referenced both ways because Salesforce, Wix has its own ID also. They're pretty similar. This one's more, uh, you can't really tell where these are coming from. On the Salesforce one, you can kind of tell depending on the type of object that key is from. But then you're gonna be saving a whole bunch of keys, right? But it might be good for something, perhaps for profiles, for people's profiles. That way you can see, okay, this ID, this user ID updated this record, and or this user ID is this account in Salesforce, so it has those keys that you can reference back and forth. Okay. But yeah, here's some of our tests that we have created. So as you can see, it's been saving it, and we have our zip code and name and phone numbers. Okay, and those are all the test ones. So, and these are just being saved to the sandbox right now. It's in the preview. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think what I like to see is being able to create a profile. So the good thing about the Wix is we can have users create accounts here easily, and we can set their permissions to very limited. So most of our pages are either private or they're not listed. And that way a user can interact with our website directly. And but we can also fetch. We can fetch some of that process information from Salesforce and display it here on the website. And I'm thinking about like volunteer hours, the last history of last times that somebody receives some type of benefit, scheduling, request assistance, and many other things. But those are the main things we're working on this integration as. So lots of potential, and it's opened the doors to this platform. And other platforms can, as you can see, that this is all JavaScript, and you can pretty much use this in any website right now. So they have built a foundation to build upon. All right. Well, I think I'm gonna wrap this all up right now with this video. So I hope you guys gain some insight of what is possible with this Salesforce integration, and you can feel free to reach out. DM Network Solutions. We are a new company that we are in Salesforce and Wix development. So, any questions you might have, any advice, let us know in the comments below. Thank you for enjoying this time with me, and hopefully, we can have more videos coming out soon. Thank you, and God bless you.